So I told my mom, we're rushing you to hospital and you're going to be all right. Right at the door, before we took the few stairs to now get into the car, she tells me, don't even bother, I don't think I'll make it. That's the last thing my mom told me. And for sure, she didn't make it. I didn't want to believe that she's gone. So I just told God, man, if you really are God, just put her in a coma. Hata kama it's for the next 2 days. Wacha ikuwe kwa ICU. But tonight, I don't have the strength to hear that she's gone. Because there's no way I woke up with my mom and you're telling me I'm going to go to sleep without her, you know? Not long ago, I think about an hour or so ago, she was vibrant. She looked like she was recovering. How is this possible? But then eventually I realized there were so many questions that I may never get, actually will never get answers for. She went with them. And I tend to believe that sometimes not getting the closure is the closure we need. And just when you think all that is too much, my biological father shows up for the first time in my life at her funeral.
Allow me to introduce you to PsychX, a trusted partner in mental well-being, offering tailored services for individuals and corporates alike. With PsychX, you can connect with licensed therapists specialized in various areas such as anxiety, depression, relationships, and many more. It's as easy as opening the website www.psychx.io, selecting your preferred therapist, and scheduling a session at your convenience. Don't let stress and anxiety hold you back. Take control of your mental well-being with PsychX today and start your journey towards a healthier, happier you.
A big chunk of my life, my mom felt like a stranger or a distant relative when unasikianga stories about, you know. But when all was said and done, especially done, now I started realizing she was overcompensating. She was doing the most, you know. And at first I was like, oh, that's nice, but this is not what I wanted. I wanted love. I wanted affection. I wanted to have a bond with you. You know. But I don't know, for me, I always had that fear of, I don't want to impose, don't force issues. Let me go with your pace. If you want to talk to me, then we'll talk. You want to hang out, we'll hang out. So when she passed away, and this was in 2015, January, that's something else that took a toll on my mental health. That was also another traumatic experience because I saw my mom dying. Alikuwa na homa for a while. And then ikafika mahali I told her, hey mom, this homa is not si ya kawaida. Because I know homa how it starts. Inaanzanga mdogo mdogo. Then there's that phase where it's just bad. Then ende ikiisha. But now hers was bad, escalates, worse. You know, it was not getting any better. And my mom was very, 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 very healthy. She was very keen on what she eats. So I told her, hey mom, this homa si ya kawaida. I'm going to town tomorrow. Do I get you medicine? And she said, no, I'll just take my concoction, you know, hot water, ginger, lemon. I told her, mom, that's what you've been taking for the past few weeks. And it's not changing. So she's like, no, it's okay. I'll be okay. And I said, sawa. So the next day when I was going to town, I told her, mom, I'm going to town in case you have changed your mind. She said, no, I'm good. I'll just take my concoction. She used to put it there with a flask. Kasema sawa. So later that week, on a Sunday, so I had my uncle downstairs. And I didn't think much of it because I know, because she was into real estate. So I know sometimes she would go with her brother to go check out some property. So I didn't think much of it. I'm like, well, leo wamekutana waende ka road trip mahali. Then my auntie calls me and she tells me, hi, I'm trying to call your mom, but her phone is not going through. I'm like, well, she's downstairs. She's talking with uncle. Let me tell her to buzz you back. She says, so I go downstairs. That's the same day Fidel passed away, Raila's son. But because I was not very aware of what's happening, I thought Fidel is a friend of theirs who was, because I could hear a conversation about Fidel, then conversation about Nairobi Hospital. So I thought it's a friend of theirs called Fidel who they're going to see in Nairobi Hospital. What I didn't know is that things had escalated for my mom that morning or the previous night. She had to be taken to hospital. So I just told my mom, and he's trying to call her back, and then they left. So when they came back with another uncle of mine. We settled home. And this was a very weird night. So I don't know if she made dinner, but I remember she made a cup of tea. My uncles love tea. Tukakaa kwa dining area. My mom and I rarely use that dining space. She was extra vibrant. She was looking very okay. There was just a glow. And I remember thinking, Nairobi hospital ile kitu walifanya, waendelee kufanya, you know. So for me, I knew she's recovering. And there was just some good banter in their house, wanapiga story, they're laughing. And I'm like, this is just a beautiful moment. And which is typical of them when they get together, the siblings, they have a good time. But there was just something extra about it. So they watched the 7 p.m. bulletin, and then my uncles left. And I went upstairs just to be in my room. And then while I'm upstairs, I hear my mom coughing downstairs. But the way she was coughing, I figured ni kunyonga menyongwa na kitu, like you're drinking water and then it goes in the wrong hole. Then she comes upstairs. She's still coughing. She goes into her room. She's still coughing. She went back downstairs and I'm like, this is too much. So I put my laptop aside and I went downstairs. I found her in there's a guest bathroom there. And this has got to be the most dramatic image I saw. She was coughing out blood. Na sink ilikuwa imeflood. You know how blood is literally thicker than water. So it's not flowing kwa pipes haraka. These are things you see in the movies. So my mom is coughing out a lot of blood. The sink is full. I actually got to a point where I thought it might start ianze ku overflow. Just as I went into shock. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to do something, but my body just couldn't do anything. I'm like, I know I should be running to grab a phone, but I went into shock. I had never seen my mom weak. I've always known her to be a strong lady. Right now, she's barely hanging on to the sink. And from the look of things, if she keeps on putting like so much weight on it, I was like, hii sink itaanguka. There'll be blood everywhere. Blood bado inaendelea kuja. It was weird. It was scary. And I could see she was holding her phone. So I figured when she was coming downstairs, she was coming to grab her phone, probably call somebody. So I told her to give me the phone so I can call someone. But I think she told me either it was dead, basically I couldn't use the phone. So I rushed upstairs to take my phone. I didn't have credit, so I had to buy credit. So I called my uncle and I'm like, hey, you need to turn around. Things have escalated. And mom is coughing out a lot of blood. And my uncle, I think, was also in shock and said, like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, she's actually coughing out a lot of blood. Sink imejaa damu, it might even start overflowing. And I remember my uncle just went quiet, trying to process. Now, it turns out, for him to have come in the morning to take her to hospital, my mom noticed that when she was coughing, there were blood spots. Now ndo akajua ni kubaya. So I think my uncle was like, I think he connected the dots, knowing that what had happened in the morning had now escalated too much. So he went in shock and I think he was silent over the phone. So I just dropped the phone. I ran to my neighbors because I figured I couldn't drive in that state because we don't want to make things worse. So I rushed to my neighbor's house. I knocked until somebody opened the door. And I told her, please help me, mom. Please help me rush my mom to hospital. And I'm crying, I'm panicking, I'm hyperventilating, like I don't even feel like I'm breathing enough. And she's like, what's happened? I'm like, mom is in a really critical state. Please help me rush her to hospital. So she came to go and check. I think she figured I'm exaggerating things or because I've panicked. I'm telling you, she just entered. She's like, oh my God, let me grab my keys. Because I think sasa damu ilikuwa imeanza kupanda zaidi. She rushed to her house. She took the keys. I went to the kitchen. I took a brown bag because I was like, I don't want now my mom coughing blood in someone else's gari, kuwe sasa, you know those stories. So I told my mom, we're rushing you to hospital and you're going to be all right. Right at the door, before we took the few stairs to now get into the car, she tells me, don't even bother. I don't think I'll make it. That's the last thing my mom told me. And for sure, she didn't make it. So when we got her to hospital, so I remember telling my neighbor, she had gone to Nairobi hospital earlier. Should we take her there? She's like, hey, Matia, we're in Mlolongo. By the time we get to Nairobi hospital, it will be a bit too late. So let's rush her to, there's a a hospital there, I forgot its name. And then once she's stabilized, they can transfer her back to Nairobi Hospital. And I said, okay. She was taken to hospital. I remember it was like an emergency. She was being treated on the corridors. They're trying to get her veins. They're trying to resuscitate her. And it was one doctor and a nurse. And I remember the doctor sent for another doctor. So moja anatafuta veins huku, mwingine kwa miguu, nini, trying to do some, I don't know, just things to keep her alive. And I remember at some point my neighbor told me, let's step out kidogo. And I'm like, I'm 20. I can handle whatever is happening here. Because I didn't want to miss out on anything. A part of me believed that my mom is still there. She's not gone. So ikafika mahali, this doctors exchanged a look. Ile kubaya. And at that point, my neighbor just like insisted we go outside and get some air. And when we went outside, I remember she didn't tell me directly that my mom is gone. But she just told me, hey, listen, if you ever need anything, I'm always next door. And I instantly knew what that meant. That my mom was gone. Yeah. It was too much for me to handle, but luckily my uncle, I don't remember at what point, but I'd given her an update of which hospital we had gone to. And because my neighbor had a kid, so she told me she had to go back home. So she told me immediately my uncle got there, she'll leave. And I said, no worries. So my uncle came, he went inside. I didn't even want to go inside. I stayed outside, now after my neighbor left. And I prayed to God and I told God, please put her in a coma. I don't want her to die. At least not yet. And I begged God to put my mom in a coma because I was like, that would help me transition better. Whew, as opposed to, just the Band-Aid being ripped off and being told she's gone. So I sat outside on the pavement. I was in so much shock. I didn't want to believe that she's gone. So I just told God, man, if you really are God, just put her in a coma. Hata kama it's for the next 2 days. Wacha ikuwe kwa ICU. But tonight, I don't have the strength to hear that she's gone. Because there's no way I woke up with my mom and you're telling me I'm going to go to sleep without her, So I just sat outside and I was hopeful that God will answer my prayer. But anyway, sometimes what we want is not what he gives us. So my uncle went inside. So when he came out, I asked him, how is she? Because a part of me believed she's still there. She's going to fight. She's a fighter. She's a strong woman. I've seen her fight so many things and she's conquered. This will be one of them. And my uncle, who's also very strong and rarely cries, so I asked him, how is she? And under his glasses, he just did this. And I'm like, no way. And he just told me, I don't even know what to tell you. And I'm like, I think you have. I think you've told me what I need to know. And I instantly went into shock. Because I can't piece these two things together. It's the same day. Not long ago, I think about an hour or so ago, she was vibrant. She looked like she was recovering. How is this possible? You're telling me you don't know what to tell me because you know what to tell me, you just don't know how to tell it to me. And at that point, I just kept telling God, I hope you've not done the thing I was praying against. I hope you've not taken her. I don't have the strength to process my mom's death. Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow or the day after, but not tonight. And then at that point, my other aunties came. I didn't even want to go inside. I nilikanje and I just kept praying. I'm like, I know, God, you can reverse these things. Like, you have the final say. This can't be it, So my grandmother got there. She was crying. My auntie was crying. I think she got so emotional, she even became weak. She had to be walked back to the car. And, eventually now they had put her into a room. Remember, they were treating her on the corridors. And I think she was covered. And that's how you know it's a wrap. And I didn't go see her at that moment. because the closer I walked to that room, the weaker my legs became. And I remember telling myself, I don't want to miss out on anything about tonight. I don't want to miss out on the doctor's report. So if I don't have the strength to go in that room, I'm not going to go. Let me wait until I have the strength. And so eventually the doctor called us in. I think my uncle sort of gave him a heads up. I've never asked. Akamwambia, just know how to package this bad news because she's the only child. Just know how to do it. Na nakumbuka tuliingia kwa hiyo room, daktari alikuwa amejipea tu shughuli. At some point hata akatuambia, do you mind waiting outside? Wacha nimalizane na huyu ni kumprescribia tu dawa. We went inside and he finally said, you did very well rushing your mom to hospital at the time that she did, but unfortunately she had lost too much blood and we tried everything that we could. I think that's the one statement that breaks your heart in a hospital. When a doctor tells you, we did everything that we could, but we couldn't save her. And I remember because I was still in shock, I said, it's okay. It's God's doing. And I think he was a bit confused. I think he's used to people screaming and getting hysterical. So I just said, it's okay. It's kazi ya Mungu. And we went back home that evening. And there were very many of us, but that house felt so empty. I entered the house, I checked that bathroom, and all I could see was just blood all over that sink. I went upstairs into her room, I don't know, just to sort of feel her presence. Then as I was in her room, because it was an ensuite, I checked the bathroom because I'd seen blood somewhere. And I noticed she actually started coughing blood in her room before she went downstairs. And I started feeling guilty. And I was like, all those times she was coughing, the minute I heard the first cough, I should have done something, you know? So you start blaming yourself, you start recalculating, and you're like, she was downstairs when she started coughing, she went upstairs, she came downstairs. So the first time she coughed, if I had gone downstairs and rushed her to hospital, maybe she would have been alive, you know? So the first couple of months, I really blamed myself. Actually, when people would ask me to narrate the events of that night, I would leave out some of those details because I didn't want people to see me as a person who killed her mom because I didn't act fast, you know? And then I didn't want to tell people that I got into shock. At some point, I froze because I feared people would still judge me, you know? But eventually, I opened up, and it also gives you closure and to know that if it's her time, it's her time. And maybe that was her time. And for the next 1 week, I was quite numb. Part of me was convinced that she has traveled abroad and she will return. And then the funeral came. Actually, Lianza now shopping for a black dress, looking for photos to put together in that eulogy. I'm still very numb. Actually, when my friends came to see me, I didn't even look like mtu ambaye amefiwa. But the day of the funeral, when I viewed the body, and I'm like, oh my God, it is her. She's in the casket. And it's closed. And I think at some point I even called her. No, I called her back in the hospital because eventually they gave us one more opportunity to see her before now she's taken to the morgue. And when I went, she was just lying there. She seemed very peaceful. And I remember shaking her because, I don't know, I still felt like science could be faulty. Maybe she's still alive. And I shook her kidogo. I'm like, Mom, Mom, Mom. She didn't move, and her hands were cold, and I was like, yeah, it's a wrap. So at the funeral day, after a week of being extra numb, you know, one thing they don't prepare you for is once the casket has gone down, and then the first scoop, ya mchanga, that hits that sanduku, nobody prepares you for that trauma. It's the worst sound to hear. So that thing just unlocked a bunch of emotions I'd been bottling up. And I'd be lying if I said that I did not consider throwing myself in that casket and just be buried with my mom, because I just couldn't imagine how life is going to be without her, you know? I don't have the other parents, you know? And then you hear stories of people ambao wamefiwa na wazazi, relatives grab everything they can and then they just leave you to figure life out, you know? But by the grace of God, my family was very, very gracious. My uncle, actually, they sat me down and they told me, we have all discussed. We are all willing to take you in. It's you to decide who you want to stay with. I chose my uncle because, well, I love him. And the love was there, you know. He saw it. He saw my education through up to the last minute because I'd only done one semester in Daystar. And so I knew they'd sit me down and tell me, hey, your fees, your Daystar, my friend, hold that thought, you know. Or I thought they'd tell me, at your age, you should be looking for a job. So go look for a job and pay your fees. But they didn't. They took care of me. I graduated, but it broke my heart that my mom was not there to, you know, see me wear that crown of education. Sasa, while you're dealing with all those emotions of your mom's passing at the funeral day, this is something I was not prepared for. My biological father showing up. So this man showed up. Quite frankly, I didn't know what he looked like, yeah? So I'm just minding my business, talking to people, appreciating them for coming through, and, you know, kwambia tu asante. Then news reaching my desk is that kuna mtu anakutafuta. And I'm thinking, it's not a big deal. It's probably just one of my mom's friends who just wants to see me, kando, you know. So I go by the roadside, and here is this man, fairly tipsy. I don't blame him for that. He was meeting me for the first time. He didn't know what was going to happen. He needed some motivation. And there's a bit of an awkward silence. So we're just looking at each other, and I'm like, this is the part where you start to talk, you know. And he tells me, you know, I was a very good or very close friend to your mom. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Sorry, your name? So this whole time, all these years, I knew his name. I just had never seen the face. Actually, at some point, I remember searching on Facebook, when Facebook was the only social media. I went up on after looking for my father. Then it can hit, okay, hata nikipata profiles, how will I know who he is, you know? So yeah, I'm a very close friend of your mom, nini, and I'm thinking, okay, and you are? Then he says the name, and I'm like, the one that I know? And he's like, and I'm like, sorry? And he says it again, I'm like, moja mwenye najua? And he says, yeah, I'm your father. And I'm just like, wow, your timing is just perfect. There's nothing happening here. I'm actually quite free. I'm not dealing with any loss. What do you mean you're my father? Like, why do you just drop that bombshell, you know? And I just told him, oh, okay, good to know. Nice to meet you. So I went back inside because I'm like, there's no way you're showing up right now after all the trauma I have been through because of your absence. I was very bitter at this man, I'm not going to lie. Because remember the sexual assault. If you were there, I would not have to be hanging out with a stepdad, you know? Remember how I felt as a child, unwanted and neglected. Where were you when my mom was being too distant, yeah? So when I was calling my mom, asking her to come and get me out of this place, and she says, no, I could be calling you, but where were you? And everything else, the trauma, when I was kicked out, if my mom is not telling me, come home, take a taxi, I'll pay, I should be able to call you and be like, Paps, man, I've been kicked out. Where were you? Sasa sai ndo wanna show up after all the dirty work has been done. So I just went back inside. Well, I didn't say that. That was just in my head. So I went back inside because I was like, again, I don't have the strength to deal with this. So he sent for me again. And I remember just saying, God, give me strength. So I went back. And I think he thought I didn't hear what he said, so he repeated. I'm like, yeah. I caught it the first time, you're my dad. And so now, I'd like us to catch up. And I asked him, 20 years, are you in a position to catch up on 20 years of my life? And I remember I might have told him, even before you start catching up with me, there's a queue. Go through my grandmother, go through my uncles. Those are the people, who have been actively in my life. So you're talking about catching up. It's a lot of people that you need to catch up with. Na mimi, honestly, sijui kama naweza. And I told him, so he even said, Let's just exchange numbers, be in touch. I just told him, let's not do this because mom has passed away. Venye tu umekuwa distant, wacha tukue too distant. I didn't have the strength for that. I didn't have even the emotional capacity to process this. First, you're reviving some wounds that have been dead, because all these wounds could have been avoided had you been in the picture. So believe me when I tell you, it's for your own good if we don't fast talk right now. And then the thing that stood out for me was the fact that he didn't say anything about the loss. You know how you say sorry? Even the casual things we say, like an anthem, I'm here if you ever want to talk, I'm always here for you, those things. Nothing. For him, he was really emphatic on the fact that I'm your dad, I'm your dad, I'm your dad. And at some point, I'm like, okay, is he singing this because he wants to get a hold of what my mom worked for? He wants to come into my life in the name of I'm her father, so whatever her mom worked for, I can take care of it. I couldn't help but think about it, because why are you emphasizing? Like, I literally heard you the first time you said. So I told him, hey, mambo ya catching up, tricky. I'm not gonna lie. So, and I think I shared this on my TikTok page, and people came talking about, oh, you don't know the story. You should have given him a chance. When your father shows up, you give him the chance. But for me, allow me to process things one thing at a time, because first of all, I'm still traumatized by how my mom passed away. I'm still having some sort of guilt that I didn't act sooner. I'm here thinking that if I had done something sooner, maybe we would not be here burying her. So I'm dealing with grief. I'm dealing with the guilt, the shame, the pain. Honestly, there's too much on my plate. I don't have room for processing. Where have you been my entire life? Why show up now? So when people would tell me, oh, because you don't know the story, I'm like, neither does he know the story. I also have a story. Does he even know my birth date? Does he know the schools I went to? Does he know what color I like? Does he know what my childhood was like? Does this man know anything about me? I'll give him the benefit of doubt. He knows my name. But anything else? This, for me, and according to my mind, this is a stranger that I have to now rewire my mind to start welcoming him. Timnanipatia pressure. Oh, you don't know the story. Even me, I have a story. Stories. So nilisema sitajipea pressure. But eventually, I acknowledged that I had too much anger towards this man. Nilikuwa na makasiriko. And when the waters zimetulia alafu neno nazichokoza, I feel like he chokozed that, because now in my mind I'd forgotten about him. Like, he's not the one person I thought about on a regular basis, apart from when I was a child, because I was like, wow, this is too much for me, and my mom is not coming through for me. So it's one of those things that I would not consciously think about. Excuse me. What could my dad be doing right now? Anakaaje, nim tall, nim light, nim dark, nim nini. No, I'd not normally think about him. So now that he has resurfaced, now he has provoked a thought that has not been there for years. Of course, that you need to give me time to process that. And then first, allow me to first process what is happening over here with my mom, Then we can talk about catching up and whatnot. So I was very angry at him. But eventually I prayed about it and I told God, wow, my entire life I've been so angry towards so many people. But when I look at them, they're still living life. They're not stressed at it because they did this and that to Susan. They still live life. They're happy. They are smiling. But I'm the one who's always kila kati nakwazwa nikiwaona, wajua. So I told God, all these people that I've been carrying on my shoulders, man, it's time for me to let them go. My mom, well, that took a while. Nilimweka hapa kidogo because I had so many questions, Justus. Like, why do you do this to me as your child? Was I adopted? Was I stolen? Did you not want me? But as for my dad, I just let him go. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about you. Hakuna ka relationship, so wacha tu nikuachilie. And now eventually I opened up to the thought of even talking to him one day. But not to talk about what happened with my mom, because now I feel like I'll only be hearing one side of the story, and my mom is not there to defend herself. So I'm not going to ask anything about their relationship, whether it was a relationship or what, whether he was planning to marry her. I can't talk about it because because I don't know the kind of person he is. I don't know if he's malicious. I don't know if he's an honest person. He could say anything just to make my mom look like the bad person. So if I'm ever to catch up with him or meet him again, that was 8 years ago. I even forgot how he looks, imagine. I don't even have a photo. Sijui kama alikuwa kwa hizo picha za mazishi. I don't think so. But yeah, I forgot how he looks. So if I'm to bump into him, he'll have to introduce himself again, you know. But yeah, I'm open to like ever talking to him, but not in regards to my mom. I feel like my mom is not there to defend herself. Yeah, and since then, I have never met him. He has never reached out ati kwa simu. I don't know if he went the mile of asking for my number. I don't know. No pressure to him. I don't expect him to. I understand maybe he was a bit disappointed by our little encounter, but he's got to understand. 20 years. I was actually about to clock 21. This is the time you're showing up. I'm not going to buy you coffee and donuts and, oh my God, where have you been? No, it's a bit of a shocker for me, you know? So we've never met again. I've never seen him. Like I said, I could see him and maybe at a sijui. Yeah, it's a bitter truth. Because look at all those things that I went through. Some with my mom. Some I had to go through alone now after my mom passed away because sasa nimeachwa peke yangu. No siblings, no paps, you know. And sasa you have to readjust to a different life of now being a strong babe, like kungangana tu. So yeah, I feel like I was so used to him not being there. So him showing up, and I mean this in the kindest and politest way, I didn't need him. Man, all those milima na mabonde nimepanda, nimeshuka, hajakuwa, and then he shows up when, you know, you've gone on a race, you've hit corners, you've injured yourself, then pale kwa finish line, mtu ana show up, I'm your dad. Wakati nimejisimamia, I'm paying my bills, I'm doing things, as in, on my mom's funeral, yani, hata ungesubiri, say, I don't know, just even be smart about it. I was a close friend of your mom, let me get your number, we'll keep in touch. Then give me a few months to digest. Start by checking up on me on a regular basis, how you holding up. Then tukifika kwa mbele, drop the bombshell, be like, I'm your dad. Because if he knew about the funeral, then he must have known about me and how to get a hold of me. If they want to, they will. Because actually one of the things that low-key or high-key pained me was our relationship was starting to get somewhere, mom and I, because now after high school, I left the country. I went abroad because I told her for uni, I want to do it abroad, not in Kenya. I think now the distance might have been an eye-opener for her, just knowing that by this time around she'll be far from me. I can't reach her directly. There has to be time difference being factored into that whole mathematics. So we started becoming a bit closer. So even before she passed away, we were getting somewhere, you know? And then, it's just taken away from you. You know, it hurts, but life moves on. The sun does not stop to rise because you've lost a mom. The world does not stop revolving because you have no parents. Amoko peke yako. Life moves on. And it's okay to take time to digest everything that is happening, but don't get too comfortable there. I like to call it the woye mentality. I could have very easily woye'd my way through life. Come to you and tell you, woye sina wazazi, nipe kazi, woye sina wazazi, nipe pesa, woye sina, you know. But it's allowing yourself to get to a point where you're like, life is scary because I didn't know how to live without my mom. As much as, yes, we were, you know, distant. But you see, this time round, kwenye ameenda, it's irreversible. She can't come back. She's not gone on a trip. She's not away, working for the two of you to have a good life. She's gone. And now you have to readjust to a new life without your mom, without a parent, for that matter. And it gets very lonely because also, and then you see all that burden comes to you. I don't have siblings to sort of distribute the burden. You don't get time to process and moan things at your own pace. like hauna time ya kuprocess hizi zinakuhit tu zikikuhit. You don't have a sibling to step in for you, like kukiwa na wageni ama people want to talk about something, you go speak on my behalf, you know. So you have to be strong. I had to read not the eulogy, kwanza the tribute to me, because I remember, sorry, we're going back, but tutarudi huko mbele. During the funeral, I'd written a tribute to my mom, but the way I'd written it, it was like, I'm referring to a third party. It's like, she did this, you know. Literally 3 minutes to me going on stage. Well, kusoma the tribute. The MC comes and tells me, oh, so I've seen your eulogy, it's very beautiful, but now I want you to read it as though you're reading it to your mom. So I went there, I'm looking at the coffin. Whatever I wrote there, I'm telling her. Instead of saying, I'm going to miss her, I'm going to miss you, mom. Yani, I don't even think I finished that tribute. Nilikuwa nimejikakamua nikasema, this tribute kitu nitafanya tu, I'll just read it very quickly nimalize your story. That thing of ati read it as though you're telling it to her. It messes you up, Anna. I don't even think I got halfway. I think I just told someone to read the rest of it because it was too much. It was too much. But yeah, fast forward. Here we are. At the end of the day, you have to accept reality. I dealt with denial, of course. And at first, the one person I was angry at was God. Because I'm like, wezi kumenifanyia hivi? I mean, you know the situation. I don't have another parent. I don't have siblings. It was just me and my mom. Yani umefanya mpaka nikaona what happened. But a part of me is always grateful. I was there when my mom was dying. Like, I saw her transition from life to not being okay to now dying, because I would not have wanted to hear stories. Because you see, when someone is telling you what happened, there's usually information that's missing out. So for me, I feel like seeing it was closure. I live my life knowing that this is what happened at this particular moment. The doctors did this. Sisiki story. Because ukisikia story, you'll always want to question, kwani hakuna kitu angefanya, you know? Ama wao ndo hawakudrive haraka, you know? But the fact that I saw her dying, that was closure I didn't know I would need later in life. That I got the answers that I never even asked for. So adjusting to this new life, my uncle took me in. First of all, I had to adjust how to live with other people. Because when I was staying with my mom, I had my own bedroom that has its own bathroom, its own toilet, kila kitu. I think she also had 2 TVs, one upstairs, one downstairs. Sasa here I am with my cousins. We're fighting over who's going to watch TV. I'm like, this is not normal. I have a cousin who at first match was always curious about everything I have. She wants to wear my clothes. Mi nashtukia amepost picha na manguo zangu. I'm like, I had to adjust to this new life. You left your headphones somewhere. By the time you're getting back home, kuna kitu imekatwa. You ask who did it. No one is taking responsibility. Let me tell you, I think the first year, I was losing my mind. And I used to tell people, I can't wait to move out. Because what is this? Vyombo, people are using the way they want. Zinaachwa hapo. Why? Because there's a me in the house who's responsible. I'll take care of everything. People who have siblings, now I respect. You have those people your entire life. Mad respect for you. I didn't know how to, like, knowing that someone is constantly in my space, because now I had to share a room with my cousin, my lady cousin. I'm like, how do you sleep with someone who's also in another room with you? Guy, sasa akitaka kuamka kwenda washroom, ama nikitaka kwenda washroom, I was like, this is not it for me. But then sometimes mkiona people who are the only child struggling with these things, si ati ni maringo, si ati tumezoea soft life, ni for so many years that was my life. Kuishi peke yako, you have your own bathroom. Where you leave something is exactly where you will find it. I think my mom would rarely come into my room, and if she did, she would knock and ask to come in. Now you're living with people who penye uliacha blouse unaipata social media, alafu mara unasikia, oh, a friend of mine borrowed your sijui what. I'm like, a friend of yours has my clothes? How? I left this speaker here, or these headphones zimevunjika. Who? Nobody is talking. Na ni nyinyi watatu, because it's definitely not my uncle. Let me tell you, adjusting to that life takes grace. Msitu underestimate. By the si maringo, si ati we don't like people, ni Now you have to rewire your brain to start living with people. Was where there's a lot, because for me it seemed like a lot of people, but we're not so many people. It's just that it's you and your mom. So I had to now wire my brain to understand that tumekuja kwa wenyewe. When you go to Rome, do as the Romans do. But let me tell you, Justus, it was wild. Eh? It was wild. Ukiweka chakula kwa fridge, it doesn't matter whether you've called dibs, just be ready to wake up and it's not there. Ati jana mkikula pizza, you decided to bakisha 2 pieces, ati you have them for breakfast. Kesho unaamka, hamna pizza. Zoea. Hey, but ilifika mahali now I had to like set some ground rules. I'm like, wase bana. Pelekeni pole pole. So that was one of the, I don't know if it's a culture shock per se, but one of the things that I had to adjust to. And of course now living life knowing you actually don't have parents. But my uncle, I think that is the closest closest thing to a dad I've had my entire life. Like we talk, we chit chat, we have like a signature greeting, he's cool peeps. I would talk to him about like a guy, we'd laugh about it. You know, like he's now what I wanted my entire life. And he still remains the closest thing to a father figure I've ever had. And I'm always grateful for everything he did. I know the first few weeks were rocky because again, I was grieving, I was adjusting to living with people. Kuna mali tulikuwa tunagongana kidogo, but eventually, you know, we met halfway. Nikashika laini. And here we are. Yeah. And I think I need people to understand this. We go through so many traumatic things in our past, and they have in one way or another shaped who we are today. But don't camp in that cocoon of woye ati because you went through this, because you lost your parents, because we're ni yatima, ati sasa you won't do, yani you're giving life the bare minimum. You've got to snap out of it, you know? Some of us have been brought to this world to kill some of these generational curses, to end some of these generational patterns. Maybe your great-great-grandparents were mean to your great-grandparents, who have now also been mean to your grandparents, who are now mean to your parents. Now our parents are mean to us. Now you feel like you also need to be mean to... No, some of you are here to break that pattern. You don't have to parent the way you were parented. For me, it's the one thing I always pray about, and I tell God, the day you'll give me a family, please, I don't want to parent the way I was parented. I want to be there with my kids. I want to know how they're doing. I want to know how their day was. I want to know how they went out to play in the field. How was that? Did they make new friends? I want to be involved in their life as much as I can. And I also always pray for a present partner. You know, you can pray for a dad who's there, but he's there but not there. I want someone who's equally as involved with his kids. So just know that some of you are here to break these generational curses, to end these generational patterns. Some of them are too toxic, and we've normalized them because in Kenya, that's how we do things. Yeah, in Kenya, mzazi hafai kuapologize kwa mtoto. And I pray that the millennials and the Gen Zs, you know, the parents who are parents now and parents to be, I honestly pray and hope that will change the narrative. You don't have to traumatize your kids to drive a point home. Your kid does not have to be crying. Mtoto akikulilia once as a parent, listen. Hata kama they're exaggerating things, just listen. Sometimes we just want to be listened to. Stop dismissing your kids' complaints, saying, hey, you're overthinking. Your daughter has come and told you there's this boy who touched her this and this way. Umemdismiss ukimwambia sijui enda amevaa vibaya. I don't know. Be there. You're here to break that generational curse. You're here to end that generational pattern. And it can't end if you're doing things the way they were done to you by your parent or your guardian. We're here to change those things. And for me, I believe, for a fact, I'm here to end some of these generational things. Mtoto hafai kuwa traumatized ati ndo ashike adabu. I'm not saying we're not going to discipline them, but there's a way to discipline that you're helping this child understand why it's wrong to do this and why it's right to do this. Sasa tumempiga umemweka ina coma ati discipline. Mtoto amegrow up amekuogopa, they can't ask for anything from you. And that is why some of these parents, they get shocked wakisikia their son or their daughter committed suicide. They're like, lakini Nyambura sinaonanga ako sawa. Hayuko sawa. Mom, hiyo trauma umepitisha huyo mtoto, you have no idea. And we have been raised to believe that we as kids cannot confront our parents about it, you know? And parents have been made to believe that you don't owe your kids an apology. Whatever you did out of love. And I understand we do out of love, but we need to draw some clear lines. Where to draw the line. As a mom who has a daughter, man, msichana wako alikuja kuambia ati kuna kaboy fulani kalimshika aje. Man, you take that girl, you go follow up with the parent. Don't make light of it. Wacha ikuange story ni, alimshika mapaja bahati mbaya, but you followed up. But your daughter can't come and say, this man touched her inappropriately, and you're just like, why don't I hang out na you know? Be there for your kids. Be intentional parents. And as the parents of today, let's change the narrative. I know a lot of millennials. So you can't just do a easy story, but a lot of millennials, we have a lot of childhood trauma because of the parenting that we grew up around. But we have an opportunity to change the narrative, you know? And even you as an individual, regardless of what you've been through, you can rewrite your story. You don't have to, I grew up in poverty, I'm going to live in poverty, I'm okay dying in poverty, I don't care about anything. Be optimistic. You know, change the narrative. Wacha watu watange kusema familia kina so and so au takuna mtu ashaenda university. You be the first one. Don't allow your past to define and dictate how your future looks like. You have today, you have an opportunity to change your future. There's nothing we can do about our past. Honestly, tunezenda huko hata Mount Sinai tupande tushuke, we swim in the Red Sea, but there's nothing we can do about our past. It is what it is. We can't change it, but we can change our future. Whatever happened to you, it made you strong, because they say what doesn't kill you makes you strong. And yeah, let that strength help you and motivate you to want to change your future. Sky tu kwa like, familia yetu tunakuanga hivi. Hapana. It can end with you. Because a lot of people have been held captive by their past. Because I can also very easily just sit back and say, my childhood was bad, my mom didn't like me, my what. Nikae tu, like I have sina excitement. But you see, if I'd not snapped out of that mentality, I would not be here. I probably would not even be working at NTV. Even the opportunities I had before NTV, they probably would never have located me, you know? So sometimes ni unakubali tu, manzi, it is what it is. You know, your parents hurt you. And for some of you who maybe your parents are very toxic and they're still alive, imagine it's okay to give yourself like a distance. Allow yourself to heal. First of all, allow yourself to feel every emotion there is to feel. If it's crying, if you want to go somewhere and scream, acknowledge that there's a problem. Acknowledge that my parents are toxic. Acknowledge my relatives are like this. Just acknowledge. It's always the beginning of the healing journey. Then allow yourself to heal. And if in your healing journey, you realize that there's some people who might hinder it. Could be your sister, your brother, your neighbor, your partner. Man, if you have to take some time away from them, do it. Because again, the thing I'm saying about generation patterns, sisi we were raised to believe that hata mzazi wako akupige uende hospitali umepata marks, at the end of the day you have to come back to them and you have to still pretend like, you know, bado unawapenda. Yani nothing should change, you know. And unfortunately that was the wrong mentality. But I love that we are also having a very woke generation. They're not willing to sweep things under the carpet. But then also, let's be a bit gracious to some of these people, because, and this is the thing that helps me sort of deal with that pain kidogo. I tend to try understand some of the circumstances that probably my mom was dealing with that I was not aware of. Maybe that's the way she was parented. Maybe. Maybe nobody gave her a heads up of what parenting is like. Maybe she went through a lot of insults and shaming and whatever when she became pregnant. I wouldn't know, you know. So maybe all that bitterness she had, it's not that she hated me. She probably hated everything she went through because of me. It just happened to be projected towards me. So sometimes I like to, you know, sort of give people the benefit of doubt. But Musema, as much as I take time to try understand what could have potentially led to some of those instances, I like to also say that does not justify anything. What is wrong is wrong. If I slap you right now, like so hard at in my defense, in my defense, I say, oh, I just thought I saw something on your face. It doesn't negate the fact that slapping you is wrong. Do you know what I mean? When you call me for this interview, if I didn't show up and I didn't say anything, and maybe it was for a genuine reason, it still won't negate the fact that I disappointed you. Naelewa? So it's also, let's try and understand where some of these people are coming from, but let's not justify why some of these things happen. Like I said, you don't have to traumatize your child in the name of discipline. You don't have to, mtoto akikuja akikwambia this and this is wrong, mwalimu anafanya hivi, mwalimu ananishikashika hivi, and you, because you're like, that can't happen, because maybe out of your ignorance, you just brush that off. Be deliberate, be woke. When I saw the casket going down, I was just like, there goes my answers. Because I honestly, genuinely wanted to know, mbona every time I called you when I was a child, you didn't listen to me. Like for you it was always a default, I'll talk to Shosho. But even when you visited, how comes you never sat me down and told me, Ebu, tell me the truth about what you go through? Did you not care enough, you know? When I told you about your boyfriend and what he was doing, it didn't strike you as off. And then I was like, what if at some point I ended up pregnant for this man? What would that have looked like? Because when it started, I told you, you ignored it. So meaning there was room for it to escalate as far as it can get. So what if it so happened that maybe I ended up pregnant? What would that have looked like? Because now I would have been the daughter you are extremely disappointed in. Do you know what I mean? This whole thing of kunipeleka. You know, when I hear white people talking about, I was living moving from one foster home to another, I'm like, wait, that sounds so bad. But now when I think about it, I'm like, technically I was also moving about. It's just that we don't call them foster homes. I'm here, I come to stay with you, I'm thinking we're living here together, you've put me where, I come back, you've taken me to boarding, I come back, you've taken me to a relative. It was like, were you always trying to get rid of me? Did you not want me in your space, you know? I had so many questions, let me tell you. And then also the other question I had was, why didn't you listen to me when I told you that your homa is getting bad? You know, that was also part of the guilt. Like, mbona hukunisikiza? Is it that you don't find me credible enough when I told you you need medicine, ama you need to go to the hospital, you know? About my own father, like I asked you on 2 instances about him, you didn't tell me anything about it. I was not asking Ati to instantly grab my bags and go stay with him. Just give me a background story. What is he like? Anakaji, you don't even have to give me the history of how you guys met, but just tell me something about this man, you know? I had to learn about him at your funeral. Do you know what I mean? But one thing I've come to learn about life is that sometimes not getting closure is a closure we need. Because sometimes we get that closure, we might get answers for those questions, but man, they open up some wounds, and now we realize we are constantly digging deeper into a wound that could have healed pole pole. So you ask about your father. Let's say, for example, maybe I learned that he was a violent man. Maybe he was even a murderer. Sasa, I want to understand. Now I'm starting to overthink, oh, what if he started living with us and he would have murdered? You know, now you get answers, but they dig up more questions. So for me, I came to learn that sometimes not getting the closure you want is the closure that you need. It ni vile tu inaumanga kidogo, but you just get to a point where you're like, it is what it is. Whatever happened, happened. Maybe one day God will explain to me in one way or another why I went through all this. And the thing that encouraged me is God is still there. In one way or another, maybe he will reveal why I went through all this. And right now, where I'm at, hey, muambia God, I know kwa list ya strong soldiers niko hapo top 3 because bwana umenitumia kama chombo. So seeing that by sharing my story, people are impacted, people are encouraged. Sometimes it's not even encouraged with advice from an advice point of view, just knowing Susan went through this and this is her right now. Always smiling, always excited. When I share my story, most people tell me, there's no way you've gone through all that. Ata ukai. And I take that as a compliment, because even after everything I have been through, the grace of God has still covered me and his favor has still been with me. So maybe all this that I went through was because of someone out there. It was probably not even for my own good. It's for someone out there. But mwambia God, tafadhali uko juu mkiona my angels mnipatie some credit because I'm a strong soldier. Yeah, so, and this is what I do, and I hope someone can take this as a tip. There's some things that really stress us out. Even for me, some things that have even put me back to depression. Make a list of all those things and then divide them into 2 categories. One category, I can't do anything about these things. On this other side, I can do something about it. I can't do anything about my mom's passing. I can't do anything about my past. I can't do anything about the sexual assaults that I've been through. See, moja. These things I can't change. But these ones that I can change. And I start to figure out, what do I need to do? Where do I start to change something about it? And that's why I'm saying, don't be too comfortable in that woye mentality. It does not get you anywhere. Haitakufikisha mahali. Before you know it, you're 50. You've just been woyeing through life. Stand up, dust yourself off, endelea tu. Once in a while, take time to cry and mourn your past or mourn whatever it is that you need to mourn. But after that, you pick up, you keep going. Ask God to give you the strength. Because he himself says that he can't give you more than you can handle. So when you get to a point where you feel like, hey, God, this is too much for me, ask him to give you the strength. For me, when my mom passed away, this is a prayer I made to God. And I told God, you've taken my mom. You've taken my mom knowing very well I don't have a parent, another parent. You know I don't have siblings. And for sure, I don't even know how my future is going to look. My relatives are nice, but I don't know if they'll be nice enough to take me in, but they did. But I told God, from now henceforth, you're my father, you're my mom. You have to take care of me. May I never lack. May I never struggle. May I not... Nisiwe huko nje nakaa ni kama ambaye sina Mungu. Regardless of what I'm going through, at the end of the day, let people look at me and still say, man, she has a God. 2021 was very bad for me. I got to a point where I was even sleeping hungry. I was in debt. I couldn't pay my rent. I think I nearly came to being evicted. But I told God, remember what I asked you. Please, when people see me out there, watu wasiseme ati huyu hana Mungu. I don't want the shame of being evicted. I have been sleeping hungry for so many days. And I was ready to die, by the way. 2021 is another year that I knew for a fact I'm not going to make it out alive because, man, mashida zilikuwa mingi, Justus. Hey, you know, up to a point where Indomie at the time zilikuwa 30 bob. Sina 30 bob ya kubuy Indomie. I had some 3 nyanyas. You know those ones that you buy at 220? They were in my house and I would eat like a nyanya a day. Or sometimes half because I'm like, if I eat too much, sina ya kesho. I didn't have food. Rent, I think even for the first time in my life, the landlord called me. I called like, hey, form. Because I'm so behind on so many months. I have no money. I have no job. I felt like I have no dignity because I can't even take care of myself, you know. And let me tell you, 2021, I was ready to wrap it up. And one of the things that I love to do are house chores, cleaning especially. So I wanted to clean my house like thoroughly because nilikuwa najiambia I want to die and leave behind a very clean house. I was ready to pack up my things because when my mom passed away, that's one of the things that really took a toll on me, packing her things. Because as you pack a blouse, you're like, oh my God, she used to wear this. As you're packing her clothes, you can smell her perfume and it just keeps reminding you she's gone. So I would tell myself, for the sake of my family and for them to process this easily, I'm going to pack everything. I removed my suitcases from there, put them down. I was ready to fold all my clothes, put them in there. The only thing I said, sitafanya ni kudismantle kitanda because, okay, sina hiyo manpower. I was ready to pack everything up, put it in my sitting room, even the carpets, roll them up, put them on one corner, so that when they come to get my body, they can also easily get my things. I was ready to die in 2021 because I could not understand how life has become this unbearable. And I remember telling God, nikaventia God nikamwambia, you see, my mom had life figured out. I wish you let her live. Me niende, because right now she would not be struggling, she would figure something out. But mbona umeniacha hapa mimi ndo nateseka sahi? As I'm battling this, I can't call her and say, Mom, sina food. Mom, this and this is happening. Mom, nisaidie na rent. Mom, you know, I'm like, why would you put me in this position, you know? So I was just like, the same way you took her, just take me. But if you don't, I will. I was ready to go. I remember I even went online Googling, what is this, painless ways to die. Because I'd considered throwing myself off the balcony, and I knew for a fact, Nikki land, that's it. But then I'm like, hey, what if I don't die and then I have to leave, you know, with all those injuries to remind me of another failed moment. I wanted to stab myself, but I'm like, that would be too gruesome. They don't need to come and see blood all over, the same way I saw my mom's blood all over. So I was ready to go. Because I know somehow alcohol and my pills, when you mix, it's a very dangerous concoction. So I was ready to go. Once I've cleaned my house and organized everything, I was ready to take like a bunch of pills and just leave. I'd written a virtual suicide note. So I was going to send it as a broadcast message. And then I think your time, there was still curfew, if I'm not wrong, 2021. Yeah. So the plan was to send that note after midnight. Because I was like, one, people will be asleep. No one is going to come here and try to save me because I don't want to be saved. And then it's past curfew. So even someone who's awake, who sees the message, and hopefully they don't have a car to drive, they'll not come. And by the time they're coming, it will be too late. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to find me dead. I was ready to die. And I mean, here we are, alive and optimistic and positive and excited. Every day I wake up looking forward to tomorrow. Every day I wake up thanking God for life and good health. And sometimes I even tell him, man, I'm so sorry for all those attempts, but pia unajua kitu unaniput through, you know. So again, prayer works. You've got to, be persistent with God. Regardless of what you're going through, mwambie God. Wacha watu wakiniona huko nje waone for sure I have a God. That regardless of everything I'm going through, my God is still fighting for me. Even when you're not fighting for me, like evidently, me I still want to put my faith in you. Please don't disappoint me. Mi nilikasirikia Mungu nikaambia umenichukulia mama, unajua sina baba, sina siblings, sina mtu, sasa itabidi wewe ndio umekuwa mtu wangu. And for sure, he has taken care of me since 2015. That's when my mom passed away. And even before that, he has taken very good care of me. Even the opportunities that have come my way, I can't explain how I got them. It's not because of my credentials. It's not, people say, nichi uko na sauti nzuri na ulienda group of schools na ulienda Dista. I'm like, if that is a prerequisite, then I should never have been out of a job at any point. It's God and his timing. And he makes everything beautiful in his own time. In conclusion, I think I'm going to leave people with two of my favorite verses. The first one is Exodus 14:14 that says, the Lord himself will fight for you. You just need to stay calm. Yeah, I know sometimes it's very hard for us to stay calm when there's war happening around us. But imagine, kaa kidete, Mungu atakupigania, because if he parted the Red Sea for the Israelites, I don't think there's anything that he can't do. If he rose the dead, you really think kupigania is too much? It's too much for him? It's not. So Exodus 14:14, the Lord himself will fight for you. You just need to stay calm. And also Philippians 1:6, if I'm not wrong, which says, he who began a good work in you will definitely see it to completion up to the day of Christ. I've paraphrased it, but you get the message. And the beauty of this verse is, I don't think there are people who God started a good work and others a bad work. All of us, he started a good work, and he himself, in his word, has said that he will see it to completion up to the day of Christ. Basically, mpaka siku ya mwisho kabisa. So even when it doesn't look like it, just hang in there. Stay calm and know that he who started that beautiful, beautiful work will see it to completion. And my prayer and desire is that his favor be upon you, that even when you're battling a million battles, people can still look at you and say, hey, twataka Mungu wa Justus, twataka Mungu wa Susan. May he remain so pronounced in your life that people just can't ignore the fact that he is in your life. And I pray that you don't lose hope. Because one thing I've learned about the enemy is sometimes the enemy is more woke than we are. He knows God is going to do wonderful things through you. But because unakuwa umelegealegea hata una habari, now he comes before you get to these good things. He starts to derail you. He starts to make you feel like you're nobody. He starts now reviving your past. He's like, by the way, after everything you've been through, do you really think God will do something grand with you, you know? So the enemy sometimes is more woke than some of us are. So also to challenge you to be spiritually woke. That even when things are bad, you can stand strong and tell people, mi najua ni kitu kubwa Mungu ameniplania, so that you don't give the enemy that platform to sabotage everything. Yeah. So as much as we are surrendering everything to God and asking him to take control, we also have a part to play. We also have to be intentional. God does not force himself upon us. We have to call to him. He's not an imposer like the devil. He takes pride in watoto wake kumuita. Getting on your knees and telling God, man, me, I can't do this. Please come through for me. By the God, bado sina rent, come through. By the God, I'm still struggling with depression, come through for me. I still remain hopeful and faithful to you, come through for me. So don't give up. Don't lose your will to live. God has big plans for you. And sometimes when you find yourself fighting those suicidal thoughts, believe me, it's from the devil. That is not from God. It's because he knows, nisipomaliza Susan sai, atenda kwa ile kitu na ile kitu ni bigi sana, na akifika pale sitaweza kumshika, sitaweza kumpata. So every time you find yourself in those moments where you feel low, you feel like just throwing in the towel and giving up, just know it's because something big is around the corner and it's coming from heaven. So yeah, that is my parting shot, and God bless you.
Thank you so much for tuning in here on Shared Moments with Justus. Remember, you can support any of these women whose stories we continue to share by sponsoring their therapy sessions at Psychex, a trusted partner in mental well-being, offering tailored services for individuals and corporates alike. Let's provide a safe and compassionate space for everyone to process their experiences, address their trauma, and even develop coping mechanisms to navigate the challenges of life. I hope to see you again next time on the next episode, but until then, visit psychex.io today and start your journey towards a healthier, more fulfilling life.